Welcome to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. Tonight we are talking about Ketanji Brown Jackson's historic win. Yes! Why President Barack Obama visited the White House this week and who is eligible to receive reparations in California. And let's break down Bill Maher's controversial remarks about Jada Pinkett Smith. Get ready to get down to business, y'all. It's another week and round of political and trending highlights of the week. Let's go. Please welcome my Friday co-host, the co-founder of the Anti-Racism Kentucky Coalition, Dr. O.J. Oleka.
Hey, Tammi Mack.
Activist and radio personality, Dominique DePrima.
Tammy, hi.
What's up? Comedian and filmmaker Alicia Cooper is with us today. Hi, Alicia. And guest starring for Ed Sanders, the host of The Reality Check, Charles Butler. Welcome back, Charles.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Tammi.
Thanks for being here. So let's jump on this thing real quick here. After overcoming a tough Senate approval, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and I would like to refer to her going forward as Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. She's been confirmed as the first Black woman to serve on the United States Supreme Court. Jackson's vote was confirmed 53-47, with all Democrats in favor, in addition to 3 Republicans. Senators Mitt Romney of Utah, Alaska Senator, and Maine Senator. What are your thoughts on this historic win? Dominique, I know you feel some kind of way about it.
I feel a lot of kinds of ways about it. It is a big, big deal. Of course, not just because she is the first African-American woman to ascend to the Supreme Court, because it's happening at this time when our country is so divided, when our court is so extreme, our Supreme Court so extreme that it's lost legitimacy with the American people, because it's coming at a time where, despite the horrifying toxic treatment of Judge at the time, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, by Republicans in the Senate, still 72% of Americans approve of her getting this confirmation. And I think it is important because she is so well qualified and so well suited in terms of her temperament and her resume for this position. So yes, it's a great day in America.
Mr. Butler, talk about it.
Well, first of all, from a historical perspective, Ms. Brown Jackson is qualified. There's no question. Her judicial activism, it bothers me, but it's no different than any other Supreme Court nominee that's come before the court in the last 60 years. However, two friends of mine could have been the first Black American women on the Supreme Court. The first, of course, you always hear about. Her name is Janice Brown, out of California. Yes, wonderful, well qualified, been the first Black woman Supreme Court justice back in the 90s. However, there's one you don't hear about, but you can learn about her because she approved Justice Brown Jackson's approval from the American Bar Association. Her name is Ann Claire Williams. Ann Claire Williams was appointed to the federal bench by Ronald Reagan back in 84, 85. But she should have been, in my opinion, and this is what I was truly done with Barack Obama, she should have been appointed before Kagan and Sotomayor. She was far more qualified than Sotomayor and Kagan. And she sat on the Illinois Supreme Appellate Court at the time as a justice.
It should be noted that Janice Brown didn't become
Donald Trump could have also appointed her. Right?
You missing the point. But Barack Obama didn't appoint her. Deal with that.
But Donald Trump could have also done it.
Deal with the fact that
Barack
Obama appointed 2 unqualified white women.
I'm not quite sure of the difference. Any president could have done it.
Barack Obama appointed 2 unqualified white women ahead of Ann Williams. I was done with it. And most people in Chicago were.
Oh, when you voted for him in the first place?
I did not vote for Barack Obama.
So when were you really done with him? Right.
I've never voted for
Barack. And Janice Brown could have been a Supreme Court justice had Bush appointed her, but he chose not to do so.
They wouldn't take the nomination.
Excuse me, Condoleezza Rice could have been vice president if she was appointed. I mean, if the Queen had different parts, she'd be a king. I mean, what are we saying? We can speculate all day.
Craziest thing I ever heard.
Well, we're just getting started.
Well, yeah, it sounds like Ronald Reagan could have appointed her too. I don't know.
He did appoint. He appointed Ann Brown. Ann Brown was the first Black woman appointed to the district court in Illinois. The first Black woman was appointed in Miss Motley in New York. She was the first Black woman appointed to the federal district, but nobody else really appointed Black women besides those two.
Dr. O.J. Oleka, let's have it.
Well,
do the facts, lady. Do the facts.
Welcome to the show, Mr. Butler. Ed Sanders, you are not. That is for certain.
Who was that?
My first comment. But
what was
welcome
that?
To the show.
Ed Sanders. Who's Ed Sanders?
Good to have a different perspective on the show. I mean, look, I'll say this. I think it's going to be exciting to see the Supreme Court going forward.
Oh, yeah.
When you've got a conservative Black justice and a progressive Black justice. You've got a conservative female. You got a couple progressive females. I think what the country is going to see, and what I think we should have always known, is that the way that you look, your skin, or your sex and gender does not make your politics. It's your ideology, it's your background, it's your experiences. And I'm excited to have these different perspectives on the court going forward. It's certainly in a celebratory day, an historic day, because we do have a Black woman on the court for the first time. And I can't wait to see how these different opinions mix it up in the most intellectual way.
Tammi, can I interject something real quick?
Yeah.
I think from reading her rulings that she is a very conservative judge. She was a very conservative judge. People don't deal with that when you read her rulings.
You disagree with Lindsey Graham then?
Of course. I mean, Lindsey's a fool.
We agree on that.
Something we can all agree on. Alicia. Alicia.
I just hope it doesn't take another 233 years to get a second Black woman on this court. And now that we've gotten this done, which I'm very excited about, I would love to see a Black female late night network talk show host next.
Monique.
Late night with Alicia Cooper. You missed.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Cooper.
Hanging with Miss Cooper.
The special guest Dominique DePrima and Tammi Mack.
There it is.
Absolutely.
So before her win and during Tuesday's confirmation hearing, Senator Tom Cotton labeled Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson a Nazi sympathizer. Check out this clip.
Judge Jackson left the Supreme Court to go to Nuremberg and prosecute the case against the Nazis. This Judge Jackson might have gone there to defend them.
Interesting. What are your thoughts? I mean, what
she did her job. She was doing her job, as a federal public defender. She was doing her job, and that's what she was supposed to do. Go there and defend her client to the fullest extent of her abilities. I mean, what is Tom talking about? Because I'm going, dude, I mean, really?
Yeah. First of all, he's ridiculous. He's swinging for the fences. Her husband is Jewish. This is never going to fly. And I guess he doesn't want her to abide by the Constitution like everybody else. Go sit down. And his last name is Cotton. That's what he wants us back picking. Go sit down somewhere.
Dominique, what you feel?
I feel like it's a classic page out of the playbook of the 45th president. Accuse other people of doing exactly what you're doing. The Republican Party has become the party of white supremacy, of Nazi sympathizers, of the Proud Boys, and that was proven on January 6th. It's proven by the number of members of Congress that were complicit in the attempted coup and overthrow of a free and fair election. So, of course, he's going to point the finger at a qualified and and as you point out, a woman doing her job with, lawyer concept, and point the finger back and say that we in the Democratic Party, or we Black women, or we people doing our jobs are the ones who are Nazi sympathizers.
Dr. Oleka.
Well, I think that Senator Cotton has one perspective, and he voiced his perspective and he offered his vote. I don't think that you can say that what Senator Cotton said represents the entire Republican Party. I think the very vote for Justice Brown demonstrates Justice Jackson, demonstrates that is not true. She got 3 Republicans to support her. One of those was the former nominee for the Republican Party of the United States. So to suggest that what Senator Cotton said represents the party writ large, I think is ignoring the other 3 who took very important votes and decided to vote for her. Every individual senator is able to cast their lot the way they want to, and Senator Cotton has done that the way the other 99 did as well.
do you believe, and I'm a little off base here, but I am concerned about what Dominique said. Do you believe your party is the party of white supremacists, the party of the Proud Boys, the party of, Nazi sympathizers?
No, unequivocally, no. The Republican Party is not the party of white supremacists, as evidenced by the candidates that we put forward and push all across the country. We have Asian women who won congressional races in California. We have Black men who won elections in South Carolina and Kentucky and in the South in general. The party is pushing Herschel Walker in Georgia for the U.S. Senate.
Well, now, I don't know if you want to be bragging about that, but okay, if that's all you got.
Well, the reality is,
my response is this: you cannot say that the Republican
Go
Party.
Ahead, Dr. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You cannot say the party is the party of white supremacists when we actively push non-white people in states, quite frankly, where we don't have a whole lot of people who aren't white. In Kentucky, we have Black elected officials who the Republican Party supported. Same thing in South Carolina with Senator Tim Scott. You laugh at Herschel Walker, but again, he is a Black male in a southern state. If we were the party of white supremacists and Proud Boys, we could probably find a few to run in those different states. We're not doing that because that's not who we are. It's a baseless characterization, and it's something that the Democrats and the left like to point out all the time, which is simply untrue.
Totally untrue. And the Republican Party has always been the party that's pushed for Black rights, has pushed for Black economic development. Barack Obama tried to destroy HBCUs, said out of his own mouth that he wanted to destroy HBCUs. They were inferior schools, and they produced
Let's take a quick break, Charles. We'll be right back on Business of Being Black. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I am Tammi Mack, and the Business of Being Black today is basically the week in review. Yeah, we are highlighting all the political and trending topics of the week. Please welcome my co-host, the co-founder of the Anti-Racism Kentucky Coalition, Dr. OJ Oleka, activist and radio personality, Dominique DePrima, comedian and filmmaker, Alicia Cooper, and guest starring for Ed Sanders, the host of the Reality Check, Charles Butler. Okay. Let's see. Let's talk about some Republicans here who have said that bringing in former President Barack Obama to speak was a strategic move to build momentum due to Biden and Harris' low approval numbers. What are your thoughts on this? Let's take a quick clip here.
President Biden, Vice President. That was a joke. That was all set up.
Well, we can always count on President Barack Obama for a nice little joke there. Did you feel a sense of nostalgia while watching Obama's speech and him and Joe Biden together, Alicia?
I did, and it just took us back to a time where it's like the president was the adult in the room. Definitely missed him, missed his humor. He understands that comedy works best in threes because he was playing. And I really did. It felt good. It felt good to have him back. And it feels like it was so long ago that he was in the White House. Trump only did 4 years, but it felt like 400 years. So yeah, it was
felt
good.
like we went back to slavery? What?
Yeah, I felt like I was being whipped every day.
Dominique, was it nostalgic for you?
Yes, in some ways it was nostalgic for me. I always love President Barack Obama for his accomplishments, his sense of humor, him as an orator. And I do think it's strategic for the Democratic Party to bring him forth right now. What's wrong with that? That's what political parties do. They play to their strengths. We are going into a tough midterm election, and we expect to see all the superstars of the Democratic Party going up against the white supremacists of the Republican Party.
Dr. Oleka?
Well, I think it's a problem if you're bringing back the 44th president as a way to energize the base, considering he never did that when he was president. Barack Obama's presidency for Democrats was terrible in every election year, except for the years that he was on the ballot. He himself called us a shellacking in 2010. The party regularly complained about how he never built out the apparatuses for the state parties, the state legislatures, and governorships. People don't like to vote for Democrats when Barack Obama is pushing them, unless it's Barack Obama himself. That's just a record. Also, Joe Biden putting him up next to Barack Obama, a man who can clearly articulate sentences, is not good for Joe Biden. just reminds Democrats of how much they do not like their current president. I don't think it does well for Joe Biden. I don't think it's good for Joe Biden. But I mean, the Democrats really liked Obama better than him anyway, so it doesn't really matter, I guess.
I'm glad you're so concerned about what's good for Joe Biden, Dr. Oleka.
Look, he's the president. I want him to do well.
The good point. Good point, Dr. Oleka. Charles?
Well, I think that
was this nostalgic
it was
for
great.
You, Charles?
It was great. It was very nostalgic. I mean, I know Barack personally, so I mean, it's no big deal. We know him in Chicago. I enjoyed his banter. I didn't support the ACA. In fact, when we learned the Supreme Court ruled on the ACA, I was sitting in a golf cart with his best friend, Eric Whitaker, and we had made an agreement not to discuss the vote on the ACA because they thought they were going to lose until Roberts did something that was totally unheard of, which was to make a Senate bill, a revenue bill. Revenue bills are generated in the House, for those of you who don't know. Bottom line is, I talked to Barack right after they got that done and congratulated him on the win.
So then the question is, what do you think about this? About him coming back?
I thought it was great because Barack elicits that a good feeling, but feeling and emotion is one thing. Actions are another. People know that they had a very difficult time under the president in his 8 years in office. That's all my 2 cents.
Advocates and elected officials are publicly inquiring about the impact of the restricted immigration policy on Black immigrants, especially as the nation continues its focus on assisting Ukraine and Ukrainian refugees here. So how do we feel about this? What do we feel about the double standards that are being used by the United States Immigration Department that continues to deport African and Black immigrants and compare that to the Biden administration allowing non-Black refugees to enter the United States? Oh, nobody.
Well, I think we have Black legislators to blame for that because at the end of the day, as you pointed out, and I pointed this out for a number of years, I thought it's totally unfair and it's totally immoral to have Black Haitians show up on the shores of Miami, be given a blanket, some food, put on a boat, be taken back to Haiti while they embrace and welcome in the Cubans, the light-skinned Cubans, okay? And some of the Cubans who are confused for being Haitians are taken back too when they're Black, because you have a lot of Black people in Cuba. So, our Black legislators and politicians are the ones to blame for this immigration policy. This is not something new. I mean, we've been dealing with, at least I've been dealing with this for over 20 years, trying to get these Black legislators to focus on, one, stopping all of these Latinos from coming into this country, and two, giving Black immigrants or illegal immigrants the same opportunities they give everyone else. And no, I am not supporting these Ukrainians coming in here, getting jobs and homes and all this other stuff that we can do for refugees, but we can't do it for our own people.
Dominique?
Well, I mean, it is a complex issue, right? I think it's interesting that you blame Black lawmakers for the immigration mess, which, as you rightly point out, has been a major problem in this country for decades. The double standard has a lot to do with how different administrations choose to enforce policy, choices they make on the ground. And I think the contrast that we've seen recently, where we had Haitian immigrants, Haitian refugees, I should say, being whipped and chased and sent home on flights, even though their country's been devastated by disease, earthquake, and a political upheaval of which the United States has a fair share of responsibility for those problems that they're suffering, and the way that Ukrainians have been quickly embraced, 200,000 welcomed in, and it's seen in immigration policy. It is seen in the media coverage. Well, these are educated people. This is Europe. It is white supremacy. It is the manifestation of white supremacy. I think that it's very disingenuous and dangerous to try to use that as a wedge issue against Latinos and divide African American and Latino people. Latino refugees also have a right to seek refuge in this country. It's a program that we have. It's part of what we do here in the United States is offer refuge. Unfortunately, there is a scale, a white supremacist scale applied to that humanitarian aid.
Read the law. Read the law. That's all I have to say. They're not. Joe Biden's not trying to blow up 42 for
You said that was all you had
legitimate reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Oleka?
What I would say is be consistent with every country across the board. Focus on closing up the border and being secure because we need to be a nation of borders, but also allow opportunity for economic migration and allow opportunity for refugees. Just be very clear, very consistent, regardless of the country.
Alicia, you were very clear, clean, and consistent in that suggestion, Dr. Oleka, but you've been saying that for quite some time on the show. So you are consistent for sure. Alicia.
He's right. It's not consistent. These predominantly white immigration judges, you know, they have this bias where they look at Black immigrants as being dishonest or untrustworthy when they come here seeking asylum, but everybody else can stay. They deported 100% of the Haitians that came in February. And I've never seen that. I've never seen that. Everybody else got, it was a percentage that was allowed to stay. But in Haiti, all of them were sent back, and they had just suffered from a well-known televised earthquake. So I mean, it just makes me mad. And then as far as the Ukrainians go, you know, we hear about how racist they are, calling people the N-word. If any of them come over here and go to Hampton and get a free education or call us the N-word, I want them to get slapped by Will Smith and deported.
Let's take a quick break. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack on Foxsoul. And the Business of Being Black today are this week's trending highlights. Trending highlights, or we're highlighting the trending and political highlights. There we go. Okay, so listen, I have been in contact constantly with the Reparations Committee in California. And pretty much keeping up with what's been going on. It's the first state in the nation to identify reparations for African Americans who can trace their lineage to slavery. So a task force is expected to release a reparations proposal in June of 2023 with recommendations for the legislature. Many task force members said they expect cash payments to be one part of the proposal, as well as a formal apology. Should African Americans who cannot trace their ancestry to slavery be included in receiving these reparations? Dominique?
Well, you know, this is a preliminary vote that the task force in California took that said you have to be able to show that you're descendant from enslaved Africans or free Africans who were living in the United States in the 19th century. I think it's a problem because built into the fact that we were enslaved is the fact that we don't necessarily have ID paperwork and, you know, a traceable proof that we are the descendants of enslaved Africans. I think it's a mistake. I know this was pushed by the ADOS sort of right-wing crowd because they were concerned that people of African descent who are immigrants might get some that, you know, maybe Oleka might get some of this money. I think they were concerned also about legal matters pertaining to having a very narrow definition, making this more saleable. However, I believe this is going to evolve and change. I hope that it does, because I think they outsmarted themselves, and what would end up happening, or what could end up happening, I should say, is that hardly anyone would qualify for reparations, because who's got proof? We know, but do you have receipts?
Well, you know, what could happen is what the police love in investigations. They can make everybody go and get DNA tested, and then we would have our DNA in all of the databases just to figure out if we were a part of slavery or not, if we have slave.
But how can we trace that? Like, you would also have to have the DNA database of all the enslaved people on plantations to match it up with, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah. I already had a solution for myself. I done already called Henry Louis Gates. We're going to get mine. I ain't even worried about that.
Sounds like he should be in the budget. Sounds like
that's right. Henry Louis Gates tell you what your great granddaddy ate for breakfast. So I am calling him.
Charles, how do we feel about this?
Well, I think that they're going down the right path very systematically, very seriously. My concern has always been that non-African non-slave related people would get reparations. We have a lot of people here from the Caribbean. Now we have a lot of people here from Africa who are Black. They, when you look at the programs that were designed for descendants of slaves and people who were impacted by Jim Crow, these people who are coming here from Africa, from Nigeria, from Ghana, from South America, they weren't impacted by Jim Crow and by the systemic and institutional racism that's been perpetrated against Black families and the destruction of Black families, which was outlined in great detail by Daniel Patrick Moynihan in his paper called Attention to the National Crises, the destruction of the Black family. So we need to pay attention to those things, and we need to get busy repairing Black families and our cultural issues internally.
Dr. Oleka, I know you may feel a slight different way about this, considering your own lineage.
Well, and what Tammi's referring to for the soulmates who aren't aware, my parents did come to the United States as immigrants from Nigeria. I have always said two things on reparations. I don't think it's a very good policy. I think this conversation is demonstrating why. It's difficult to see who would get it. But then two, if whatever community decided they wanted to do it, whatever government, if it was local or state or whomever, I don't think African immigrants or Caribbean immigrants should get it for these very reasons. There's a different kind of understanding of the country, how we came here compared to American descendants of slaves. That said, again, I think what you're finding is that this is a very difficult policy to work through. Also, I'm unsure of how the results of this thing would actually be beneficial. We can see through Medicare, Medicaid, through various cash transfer payments throughout government history that they don't necessarily root out poverty. So I'd like to see a different approach on this. Again, I don't think it's a very workable solution to the very real problem of the systemic challenges that the Black community faces. But our states and cities are laboratories of democracy. So let's see what California comes up with.
Well, they're saying it should include cash payments, which means not only cash payments, but the inclusion of other things as well. So,
I mean, the argument that we're better off without more resources is just dumb. I'm sorry. It's just dumb.
I don't know who made that argument. I said that cash
I don't know who did either, Dr.
Poverty
Oleka.
opportunity.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Say that again, Dr. Oleka, so that we're clear.
I said that cash payments, when you give them directly to folks, particularly those in poverty, do not change the fact that they are in poverty. You can look at Medicaid and Medicare and generational poverty. Again, I'm from Kentucky.
But actually, if you look at universal basic income programs and guaranteed income programs, it actually turns out not to be true, Dr. Oleka. It turns out people do things that help lift their families out of poverty.
There is a difference between a temporary payment that can help pay for a flat tire or something of that sort and giving people continued cash payments that does not change, one, how they understand money, how money works, how money moves, their opportunity to invest, and whether or not they can put it towards a real asset like an education or a house. Those are different kinds of opportunities as opposed to explicitly cash. Also, as we're seeing this year, when you give people cash payments and inject more money into the market, you get this thing called inflation, which means that money is less valuable to you because gas goes up, bread goes up.
Maybe it's the supply chain. Economists don't know, and neither do you. And the argument that Black people shouldn't get reparations because we're not educated enough to handle the money, or it's not going to help us. It's just so anti-Black. I can barely stand it.
That's not what I said. I
it is really the essence of what you said.
If you give cash payments to people who do not know how money works and moves, as opposed to giving them the opportunity to get an education, which is a real asset because you can use that to get employment, or a house, which is where most of Americans' wealth are. If you look at the GI Bill led to the greatest wealth development in American history because
we were kept out of.
It did those two things. It created an opportunity.
No, we weren't kept out of GI Bill.
It created an opportunity for people to get a house. Again, if those benefits were given to Black folks, I think we'd be in a better situation.
But you guys are touching on some very key points. You talked about education. You talked about economics. Those are things that the government, the federal government, I don't care if it's Democrat or Republican, liberal or conservative, have constantly failed Black America. Our schools used to be great schools. Black schools were great schools in Detroit, Chicago. They turned out some of the greatest minds of their time in the 30s,
Washington,
40s, 50s
DC.
before integration. Yeah, Washington, D.C. before integration, New York City before integration. So, but those things became under systemic attack, and they were downgraded. Like you go into a black school today, and the kids all complain because they're not learning anything. The kids complain. They should come on my radio show and complain that they're not learning anything. When you talk about economics, let's talk about jobs. Let's talk about why you're going to give 200,000 Ukrainian jobs, homes, resell them. Remember those boys that the Boston Marathon bombers, foreigners who came over here, we clothed them, we fed them, we gave them a house in the suburbs because they don't resettle refugees in the ghetto. They had 2 Mercedes in the driveway. I mean, these are refugees who came here and living better than most Americans. Come on. Something's wrong with that picture. That's what we need to be focusing on.
But I wanted to say something too about reparations. We always go all the way back to slavery. I've always believed that if you lived through the Jim Crow era, you deserve reparations. And people are alive right now that can tell you they saw whites only water fountains couldn't.
I did too.
Right. You deserve reparations, sir. And couldn't try on clothes in the department stores and all this.
I went through that in Detroit.
Go all the way back.
We can try them on now. I'm just checking.
We went through that in Detroit, and my mother was very clear. We couldn't try on a coat, a winter coat. We didn't buy that. That's why we bought our coats at Lane Bryant.
I think reparations should go to anyone who gets followed in the store. That's the line that I draw. We'll be right back on Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack on Foxsoul. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I am Tammi Mack, and please welcome my co-host for today, Charles Butler on deck. Alicia Cooper is here with us. Dr. O.J. Oleka. Hi, Dr. O.J. And Dominique DePrima on deck as well. So 22-year-old Amir Locke was shot and killed while sleeping on a couch during the no-knock warrant execution on February 2nd. On Wednesday, Minnesota prosecutors announced that criminal charges would not be filed against the police officer who fatally shot Amir Locke. Upon hearing SWAT entering his home, Locke reached for his handgun, which he had a permit to carry. A SWAT officer fired multiple shots, striking Locke and killing him. Now, the officer has had several complaints filed against him over the years, but no disciplinary action has ever been taken. The county attorney, Mike Freeman, and attorney general said what happened to Locke was a tragedy, and Locke would still be alive today if a no-knock warrant wasn't used. Both the attorney and the attorney general continued that prosecutors found insufficient admissible evidence to file criminal charges in this case. Is this yet another example of why we should not have no-knock warrants? It's interesting to me that the no-knock warrants are coming up within the last 3 years in this context, because no-knock warrants this has happened for decades, and we've seen them even in movies where police just go in, gangbusters into your house, and you shoot, they shooting back. That's all to it. Because the assumption there is that something criminal is happening or that you are a criminal. Dominique, speak to it.
Well, yeah, I think this is a good example of why we actually do need some federal legislation around reimagining law enforcement. There are some things that just need to go away. And I understand that we continue to have progress in the reimagining of our law enforcement on the local and state level, on county levels, and that's very important. But there are some things like chokeholds, like qualified immunity, which needs to go away, like the no-knock warrants, which need to go away. And that's why it is so tragic that Republicans blocked Congresswoman Karen Bass and Senator Cory Booker from being able to move forward with a real effective and viable kind of police reform bill for our country.
Yeah, Charles.
Well, Dominique, I find it very interesting that you mentioned qualified immunity, but you didn't mention Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas is the leader of trying to end qualified immunity, and everybody overlooks it because it's Clarence Thomas putting it forward.
Well, Clarence Thomas is not in the legislature. He's in the judicial branch, so it wouldn't be his job to pass a police reform bill. And also, he's married to an insurrectionist and should step down from the Supreme Court immediately. You brought him up.
So I did bring him up, and I think that that's totally 180 out from where I am. The bottom line is, Clarence Thomas is the Supreme Court justice is talking about ending qualified immunity for police officers, and I think legislators, Democrat and Republican, should rally around that cause because it's going to come before the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court implemented it in 1992.
Dr. Oleka?
You mentioned judges. I think judges actually at the state level and at the local level play a bigger role in this than people think. We talk about no-knock warrants. In order to get a warrant, you have to get a signature from a judge. And what's often underreported in these cases, in these stories, is what was the process to get the judge to sign off on the warrant to begin with. I always hate these stories. It's always an awful thing when a young person loses their lives, particularly a young Black male. There's so much promise and potential. I'm a Second Amendment guy. Based on the reporting, he had a permit. He was legally in the possession of a firearm. I really hate these situations, but I think one portion that we should look at more earnestly is the process in which the judge was able to sign off on a warrant to begin with. Because if the judge doesn't sign off on the warrant, a no-knock warrant in particular, then this situation doesn't occur to begin with. That's right.
Yeah, Alicia, how you feel?
Like the only thing good to come out of Minneapolis was Prince. Because this makes no sense. A no-knock warrant on his face just, to me, flies in the face of innocent until proven guilty. When you start kicking in my door at 2 a.m., you're making me feel like I'm already been proven guilty. And I don't understand the concept. You mean to tell me you can't surveil this apartment till everybody comes out in a few hours? It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And too many lives have been lost that didn't have to be lost over something this stupid. So I hope that it's reversed. It needs not to even be a policy at all.
Yeah. Speaking of stupid, Bill Maher is receiving a lot of heat for his unsolicited remarks about Jada Pinkett Smith and the Will Smith Chris Rock slap incident. Boy, is this ever gonna go away? In his 3-minute monologue, he referred to Will Smith, as something along the lines of a male organ, whom he didn't feel bad for at all. In addition to making fun of Jada's alopecia, he said, I mean, alopecia. It's alopecia. It's not leukemia, okay? Alopecia is when your hair falls out. There are worse things, Bill Maher said. He also said, just put a wig on like everybody else at the Oscars if it bothers you so much. So what are your thoughts on Bill Maher's comments? Were they insensitive, or is he a comedian who, once again, is allowed to tell jokes, Alicia?
Well, I didn't know alopecia was offensive because that was my stripper name. But when he said there's worse things than alopecia, there's also worse things. I just don't want to hear, the worst thing is having a rich white male cisgender dude sitting on TV talking about a Black woman's hair and how she should feel about it. That's absolutely ridiculous. I feel like the whole situation was blown out of proportion. I don't think it should have happened. And if it was going to happen, I think he should have approached Chris Rock backstage or behind the scenes later on. But Bill Maher having to weigh in on it, I just feel like he should have let that slide because he doesn't even know anything about what he's talking about. But that's white male privilege.
Okay. Dr. Oleka?
I don't really watch Bill Maher a whole lot to know what his comedy is like, but I do know that he is a comic. And based on what I've seen about this incident is that a lot of comics are coming to the side of Chris Rock for some of the reasons that Alicia pointed out. And some of the things that I've seen and read is that comics feel like now they can't tell jokes without the risk of being assaulted, even more so than they were before. And I'm not a comic. I don't watch Bill Maher, but I wonder if that was underlying why he felt he had to make a comment here. What I typically do, though, if there is something going on with Black women's hair, I try to say nothing.
You have been really consistent about your lack of conversation when it comes to Black women and their hair on this show. Yes, I guess we can say thank you, Dr. Oleka. I don't know. Dominique, you are a Black woman, and I'm sure you've had hair issues in the past, present, future, as both Alicia and I have had with our hair.
Right. So, I call, hair is a Black woman's blessing and a Black woman's burden. Yes, and, there's a reason why we had to have a congressional act to the Crown Act to get people to leave us alone about our hair. I agree with Alicia in that Bill Maher doesn't really know what he's talking about in this situation, because it's not just alopecia ain't leukemia or this, that, and the other. It's that Black women are constantly disrespected. We're the butt of jokes. Our hair is ha-ha funny, just in the way it's ha-ha funny to hurl other kinds of racial stereotypes at us. It is a microaggression. Sometimes it's a macroaggression. It's a way of belittling and undermining Black women. So it goes beyond the literal interpretation of whether it's alopecia, leukemia, or whatever. It is about the treatment of Black women in the media, on the world stage, and in the workplace.
So did Bill Maher, was he not allowed to tell that joke?
He can tell whatever joke he wants.
Do you think he was intentionally trying to be, I want to use a word a little harsher than insensitive here. Do you think he was intentionally trying to belittle Black women?
I think he was trying to be funny. I think because he dates Black women, he may feel like
Bill Maher is a fan of Black women.
He probably thinks he have a little more latitude because he's seen us in and out of wigs and sweated out a few perms in his day. And I get that, but you still don't understand if you haven't walked in our weave.
Charles, what you got? And I feel like he fetishizes Black women. I don't feel that there's no Black woman there.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, Charles.
Well, I've met Bill Maher. I'm not a fan of Bill Maher. He disrespects Black women all the time. He disrespected Condoleezza Rice. He'd invited me on his show, but I said I was going to punch him in the nose because he disrespected Condoleezza Rice. So I didn't get to go.
Pull a Will Smith on Bill Maher. Okay.
Yeah, this is about 10 years. This is about 10 years ago.
Break. We'll be right back on Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack. We were just talking about Jada Pinkett Smith, and Will Smith has been banned from the Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences for 10 years, meaning that he will not be allowed to do anything in conjunction with the Academy. He will not be able to be nominated. He will not be able to attend those award ceremonies. But Jada Pinkett can still go, right?
I believe so. This is still a developing story, but it looks like, yes, she can. I mean, she didn't slap anybody. But, I also think that we're going to see a lot more of Will Smith at the NAACP Awards.
Okay, I'll take it. I'm wondering, though, because Will Smith resigned from the Academy, and I'm sure he resigned from the Academy so that he wouldn't put too much pressure on them to have to focus on him for so long, and also to maybe alleviate some of the punishment that would come along. Is this pretty harsh, Dr. Oleka?
Well, the word of the day for me is consistent. I mean, we've seen a lot of actors and actresses and people attached to Hollywood do some pretty awful things. I don't know if they've been banned or not, but they're certainly worse than what Will Smith did. I don't like what Will Smith did. Whether or not that deserves for him to be banned for 10 years, we'll see. What I do wonder is what happens in 10 years and over the course of the decade. Does Will Smith put out some of his best acting in spite of what the Academy has done, because of what the Academy has done? No, he can't be nominated. And also, I wonder in 10 years, or I guess 11 years, when they give him his Lifetime Achievement Award.
I was about to go there. Thank you. When they give him his Lifetime Achievement Award, what, Dr. Oleka?
I wonder if he'll even go to the Academy to receive it.
Yeah, I'm thinking he would. Alicia?
Well, it could have been
banned 10 years.
10 years. It could have been worse. They could have done a Donald Sterling and said, for life. Remember the Clippers owner who got banned for life? Yeah. So I say, take this 10 years of maturing. So
how old will he be in 10 years?
63 now, so he'll be 63.
63? Yeah, you can still, he will definitely get a Lifetime Achievement Award. I don't know. Does Will Smith even care about this sort of thing at this point in his career? He has an Oscar. He has the money. He's been a part of the Academy for the last, 2-3 decades. Charles?
I think that we spend too much time on Will and what's happening to Will. As his brother, as Chris Rock's brother said, he hit the right Rock brother. Chris has 9 brothers. He said of all of them, he hit Chris. That was the right one hit because the rest of them would have hit him back. And banning him for 10 years is no big deal. He's going to make money. He's a box office attraction. No one perpetrates violence more than Hollywood. And I'm listening to these people talk about we don't support violence. Look look at any movie out here. It's always bias. People getting killed, people getting shot. Come on, television series. It's the same thing. It's just so hypocritical. It's not even funny.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk about this because I just found this to be quite the funny story. Paula Patton got people on social media fired up after sharing her mother's famous fried chicken recipe. And boy, do we have a clip.
Famous fried chicken. We'll get to just clean it with some cold water, and then we'll get to frying in it. I start to dust it with the Lari salt, right? Each chicken gets enough, maybe a little too much, because I like it a little salty. Look, that's a good color.
Okay. She put the seasoning on as she was frying the chicken. So of course, Black Twitter went ham on her. Like, what kind of recipe is this? And she did acknowledge and said, listen, guys, thank you. I appreciate your comments. This is my mother's recipe. It's really just how we fry the chicken. Everybody does it their way, but I'm going to continue to put my seasoning on in the grease. So, Dominique?
Oh, well, look, I like Patti LaBelle's recipe for the baked fried chicken because we're not supposed to be eating fried foods anyway. That said, my main problem with it was the fact that it wasn't cooked all the way through. You can die from that. And so that was my issue. I can deal with your weird seasoning choices, but death, not so much.
It was not cooked all the way through. Dr. Oleka, you down for a good piece of fried chicken every now and again, unseasoned?
This is where Dominique and I agree. Sure, if you want to make fried chicken, it's a little less seasoned than maybe I would like it. I'll do that, but it's just got to be cooked all the way through. I don't like to talk about how people make their chicken or their food in general, especially if it came from a family recipe. But I'd have to make sure that the meat is at least cooked before I ate it.
I think she was eager to get it on camera. That's all. Charles, look, do you feel like this is a whole frivolous conversation? Because you're looking like, I thought I came on this show to talk politics. Chicken is political, Charles. It's very political.
I love yard bird. I mean, fried yard. I mean, I remember in the summers going home when we had to wring the chicken's neck out in the yard. My grandmother would pick it, fry it up, and we would eat it going home because we couldn't stop at the restaurants. And we going back to Detroit from Florida. And I tell you, I love a good piece of fried chicken. So isn't Paula's mother white?
Yes, she is.
And so is mine, and I can make some chicken. What you saying? What you saying?
You batter your chicken with the flour in the bag.
No. And I also do believe you're supposed to soak it in either some vinegar or some lemon, not run it under
look at you real quick. Look at you. I like her. It's
interesting that we talk about the color of her mom. She's white.
No, I'm just saying. I'm
saying what's interesting about that is that because of the way she was frying chicken, social media start Googling her mom.
Sure.
They wanted to find out, well, whose mama is giving her this recipe? And so, of course, they were like, aha, she's white. Aha.
Okay.
White. So Dominique, I ask respectfully, does your chicken recipe come from your mother?
Yeah, I think it does. My mom is Italian, so it's a little different,
You don't count. She Italian.
We cook things.
Italian,
Let's say that.
Italian is good food. I love some Italian now.
Yeah,
Alicia, I know you want to weigh in on the chicken.
I was just impressed that her white mama seasoned it at all. But so I'm like, let's just start there. And did y'all see how beautiful that kitchen was? I was looking at the kitchen. I was like, I can do some damage in this kitchen. So yeah, but like they said, it wasn't cooked all the way through. So that upset me because I would have tried her chicken backwardsly seasoned if it had been cooked all the way through. But
seasoned. While you were looking at the kitchen, I was actually looking at the pan that the chicken was being cooked in. And I was like, she does not cook very often because it was like such a pristine, brand new pan. And I mean, I don't have a pan in my house. I got to buy pans every month because my pans are like lit. They are burnt to the core. Do you understand?
When are we coming over, Tammy? Because I know you can cook.
So two coaches have joined. Brian Flores is in the lawsuit against the NFL for racial discrimination in their hiring process. Steve Wilks, 2018 head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, and Ray Horton, former NFL defensive coordinator. Does this make the lawsuit better, Dr. Oleka?
Well, it certainly allows for more opportunities for discovery. Again, as we think about this lawsuit, you're going to have to gather a lot of information. It's really difficult to prove discrimination across a large corporation like the NFL, particularly when you've got multiple teams. They have their Rooney Rule, but we'll see. The discovery will give us more information. I think we can go from there.
We're running out of time. Let's end the show with some Black girl magic. Rihanna is a new member of the Billionaires Club, baby, making her the richest female musician in the world. According to Forbes, Rihanna is worth $1.7 billion thanks to Fenty Beauty contributing to the majority of her success. Rihanna, a self-made billionaire. Got to give some credit to Jay-Z though, right? Thank you for being on Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. Next up, get ready for TGIF. See y'all later.